I am opening. My heart is ready to receive. I am opening. I am opening. My heart is ready to receive. You are opening. You are opening. Your heart is ready to receive. You are opening. You are opening. Your hearts are ready to receive.
Join us.
We are opening. We are opening. Your hearts are ready to receive. We are opening. We are opening. Our hearts are ready to receive. We are opening. We are opening. Our hearts are ready.
Wow. Well, I am certainly ready to receive. That was beautiful. That was really, is that yours? Did you do that? Oh,
No, that was somebody else's.
gorgeous, gorgeous. Thank you so much for that. Well, you did it well. I just enjoyed that. And I would like to invite our practitioner of the day, Lisa Lazaro, to kick us off with an invocation and whatever else you'd like to share with us this morning. Good morning, Lisa. I know I saw her.
I'm sorry, I was unmuted, and anyway, I'm having a little trouble with my system here. But anyway, good morning, everybody. And actually, I think that the song itself was the perfect invocation and opening for the morning. I don't even I don't feel like at the moment to pray, shall we say. It's like the prayer was there, because that's where we need to be this morning as we begin this particular Sunday. But anyway, as we're talking about darkness and light, and the Twinkle Twinkle Little Star sort of initially provoked in my mind this sense of how we look at there are many ways of looking at light and darkness, and that is kind of like we tend to look at light as the good stuff, or what we define as good stuff, as when we have an aha or a special beautiful thing we see, or something that uplifts us. We think of that mainly as light. And then on the other side, we look at darkness and tend to think of it as the dark spaces, and the spaces of feeling alone and unloved. And I thought about it in terms of, and also fearful, in terms of, we have kind of like an ancestral genetic piece about darkness, I think, which is, you know, in terms of being afraid of the dark and of the things that are going to come out of the dark when there's no light. And then we've translated that over time culturally into black cats and black people. And it's like, you know, really something to be examined, that one of those cultural ideas to let go of, because also the dark is the place of all possibilities, the center of all energy. It's kind of where God lives, and is the place of birthing. You know, black holes birth stars, the womb births children, the dark earth births seeds. And so it's kind of like one of those things in our 3D world we kind of need to look at it as we're trying to bring spirit into form and really look at things in a different way. And one of the things that I found as I was looking at stuff was this little, where is it here? From it's been a long thing for me. A long time ago, I came to this understanding of things being like the both sides, good and bad, being both sides of the same coin. And so it's they're living side by side and within one another. And so I yesterday came across this 8th century Buddhist poem, which I just think is really good to ponder. Within light, there is darkness, but do not try to understand darkness. Within darkness, there is light, but do not try to understand light. Light and darkness are paired, like the foot before and the foot behind in walking. And I just, for me, that was just perfect in light of also things going on for me in life, as you know, being well, it's like at the moment, one thing is in terms of dealing with health, both mine and my cats, is that sense of the scariness of it, in a sense, and the trying to figure it all out, and then just sort of settling in with it is what it is, and to move on with it, and to allow what's the next piece, what's the next thing that's going to be introduced to move it from one spot to another spot, like walking. And so that's kind of where my head is this morning. And I hope that's of some use to some of you.
Lisa, that couldn't have been a more perfect prelude to the talk. You just gave a complete summary of what we're going to talk about.
Well, it was so interesting because it's like the way that you wrote it this morning in terms of what the talk was about was what kind of shifted my head from where it was before. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Oh, anyway, if we could say together this lovely affirmation. I am grateful that every day is a fresh new start. Today, I release any thoughts of blame or judgment against myself or others. I express the good of God. I live in peace, ease, and grace, and the laughter of love. And so it is.
And so it is. Oh, beautiful. Oh, well, how about some more music, Julia?
How about it? That sounds like a great idea. Thank you.
This one is inspired by Einstein.
And it's dealing with light being both a particle and a wave. If I were here, I'm sure he would agree. If you want to move around at light's velocity, you gotta think big as infinity. So take the afternoon and come along with me. Hey, let's be big. today. We'll travel all around, chasing troubles away. They'll never see us coming, they'll wonder why they're humming. Come on, what you say, let's be big today. Sitting on a moving mountain of gold, riding out past everything that I've been told. Internal navigation, blindsided by degrees. Fear of not succeeding was defining me. I'd rather think big, so I'm getting out of my way, out into the open where it's not so gray. Hey, let's be big today. We'll travel all around, chasing troubles away. They'll never see us coming, they'll wonder why they're humming. Come on, what you say, let's be big today. Bigger than heartache, bigger than strife. We're breaking the chains of darkness and light. When I am in tatters and about to cave, in elementary matters, be the particle and the wave. When you're scared and lose your way, be the particle and the wave. Stand and be brave, be the particle and the wave. Hey, let's be big today. We'll travel all around, chasing troubles away. They'll never see us coming, they'll wonder why they're humming. Come on, what you say, let's be big today. Bigger than heartache, bigger than strife. We're breaking the chains, be the particle and the wave. Bigger than heartache, bigger than strife. We're breaking the chains, be the particle and the wave. Hey, let's be big today. We'll travel all around, chasing troubles away. They'll never see us coming, they'll wonder why they're humming. Come on, what you say, let's be big today.
Ooh, yeah, we are, right? We are the particle in the wave. We are light and dark and solid and fluid, and we are the all. That was beautiful. I love that. I love that first line about something about Al. You said something
Yeah, I think it was, I think I read it in like a Yogananda newsletter or something, and it was saying, like Einstein said, if you wanted to move at the speed of light, you'd have to be the circumference of infinity. And I looked at Julie and said, well, we can do that.
Yeah. Still working on it, but I know I can.
Oh my goodness. Well, good morning again. Good morning again. One Heart, One Mind, Center for Spiritual Living. And welcome to our online Sunday service. I just want to pause just for a minute because as you were playing, I just felt this overwhelming sense of gratitude. And I was thinking about how blessed I feel. Oh, bringing tears to my eyes. So I just want to express gratitude and to bless our fabulous musicians today, who I'm always delighted when they come. And Lisa, our wonderful practitioner of the day, and each and every one of you who has shown up here today. I just feel really blessed by this community. I really do. And so let me just say that, as always, whether you're connecting with us in real time here on Zoom or watching the Facebook live stream or, the YouTube replay, however you are connecting with us, that I just want you to know that your presence blesses us as well. Because, there's only one life, right? And that life is God's life, and we're all living in it, and you're connecting with us. And as you connect with us, that God's good expands, God's love expands, and that impacts all of us, whatever time we're connecting. And we're all blessed by that expansion, because there's only one life. So, no, I'm just filled up. So today's talk is, as Lisa said, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, which comes from a 19th century nursery rhyme written by a woman named Jane Taylor. I honestly had to look that up. I had no idea. But if you grew up in the 20th century, I'm sure that you've heard it. And I like this title because, that little twinkling star, it really lends itself as a metaphor for that shining expression of divine light that each and every one of us is, that we all emit this powerful stream of God light. And we get to decide how we want to use it and where we want to direct our light. And the nursery rhyme makes it clear that each of us, as little twinkling stars, shine more brightly against the backdrop of the dark night sky. It was what Lisa was talking about earlier. And learning to balance and to harmonize that contrast of dark and light is what living as a divine human being is all about, to balance our divinity into the practicality of daily human life, which leads us kind of back to this month's theme, which Lisa was also talking about, which is light within the shadows. And it reminds us that while each of us is this powerful emanation of divine light, we're also having a human experience, which sometimes, often actually, creates shadows. And it reminds us that we are living in a spiritual world or a physical world, excuse me, that expresses itself in duality. But here's the thing. It's the wholeness of God, the allness of spirit that embraces all of these aspects of life, both our divinity and our humanness. And we can gain perspective from looking at both sides of these seeming opposites, from the contrast that we see around us in the physical world, like feminine and masculine, or darkness and light, or anger and peace, joy and pain, fear and love. All these sets of seeming opposites help us learn to express that equilibrium and balance and harmony of the Spirit of God in our human experience as we live here on earth. It gives us the opportunity to see that life is not a matter of either this or that, but instead it's an all-encompassing experience of both this and that. And we're always at choice about the perspectives that we see our human experiences from. The last couple of weeks have talked a lot about what we see from. And we're always called to find a way to balance and to harmonize our divinity, our divine love, the twinkle, twinkle, little star within us, with our human experiences, and to ask ourselves throughout our day, what perspective am I seeing this from? Our role is to shine, but not to resign from our human lives. I love that line, shine but not resign. A good example of this is that story. You maybe heard it. We probably all heard all the stories by now, but this is a good one. And this is a good example of what I'm talking about. It's a story about the two monks who were traveling together. And at one point they came to a river, and it had a really strong current. And as they were getting ready to cross, they saw this beautiful young woman who was also trying to cross the river. And the young woman, who looked petrified, she looked at the monks and she asked them, "Would you please help me to cross the river?" And the two monks paused and they looked at each other because they'd taken vows not to ever touch a woman. So here was their dilemma. But then, without saying a word, the older monk picks up the woman, carries her across the river, and places her gently on the other side. And then the two monks continue to cross the river and continue on their own journey. But the younger monk couldn't believe what had just happened. He was speechless. And they walked for several hours without saying a word. And finally, the younger monk, he couldn't contain himself any longer. And he blurted out, "As monks, we are not permitted to touch women. How could you carry that woman across the river?" And the older monk looked at him and replied, "Brother, I set her down on the other side of the river long ago. Why are you still carrying her?" And these are moments, right, in our lives when we're called to find a balance between the practicality of living a human life and being in integrity with our divinity, with love. Those moments call for an intuitive awareness of what perspective are we thinking, feeling, and acting from. Is my intention loving? Is this kind and compassionate? Am I bringing the presence of love into someone's life? And you know what? That is not always a clear-cut answer. I think about it every time I give the homeless guy or the homeless woman money that's sitting on the corner. Am I really supporting this person, or am I enabling them? Is my intention loving? Sometimes being human is messy. And that's really when we have to rely on the guidance of that light within us. We have to rely on our intuitive knowing and our connection with the wisdom of the whole. In the first line of the Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star rhyme, it says, "How I wonder what you are." What a great invitation for us to ask ourselves that empowering question: who or what am I? I'm a huge fan of asking empowering questions, and I like to use them a lot. And I think that we can employ them as a very powerful spiritual practice. And I also believe that this is the most powerful question that we can actually ask ourselves. Who am I? Am I just flesh and bone, or am I more? And if I am more, then what is that more? And this is the beginning of our spiritual journey. And if you're anything like me, I begin this journey every day. I have to ask myself this question every day, because it's so tempting to believe that the world of form is the only reality, that it is my source or the cause in my life. And so every day I have to begin by connecting with that larger part of who I am, the twinkling star within me, my God self. And I used to think it was such a sacrilege to suggest that I was anything like God. And now I believe it's kind of a sacrilege not to believe it. I'm kidding. There's no sacrilege. But years ago, I ran across this book, and from time to time, I'll remember it and I return to it because it was so inspirational to me. It's a book. I've probably even quoted it to you guys many times. It's a little book called 3 Magic Words by a guy named U.S. Anderson. I used to know what the initials stand for. I can't recall anymore. But anyway, he wrote this, and I wanted to share it to you because it's so super great. "This is the ineffable secret, the ultimate illumination, the key to peace and power. You are God. If you will accept this towering truth, dare to stand atop this magnificent pinnacle, universal consciousness will be revealed to you from within. God is there. It is He who peers from behind your eyes, who is your own consciousness, who is your very self. I am God." It's not a sacrilege. This is just so powerful to me. It's bringing tears to my eyes. To embody this idea is my journey. And sometimes I'm there and sometimes I'm not. But to ask this question, who am I, is such a powerful spiritual practice and an invitation to know God more deeply and more personally every day. It's He who doeth the work, Jesus told us. And And I want to know that presence as myself and to allow it to work through me personally at my point of expression. Asking empowering questions is a powerful spiritual practice. We are, even if we're not always aware of it, enculturated to look at our lives and ask, what's wrong? And how can I fix it? What do I need to buy or become or do to be happy and content and successful? And as metaphysicians, we know that if we're looking for the answer to what's wrong, then by decree of natural law, the universe will answer us. It will point out and highlight for us everything that's wrong in our lives and in the world, because that's where our attention is. Ask and it is given. That's what that means. And once this negative inquiry becomes kind of grooved into our subjective state of mind, our subjective consciousness, then everything that we encounter in our lives will be in service to answering that question, what's wrong? And our experiences will be all the things that we believe are wrong, all the things that are wrong with other people, all the things that are wrong with ourselves. If we live in that question, then that's the answer we will receive, because that's the question we're living in. So, you know what I'm going to say? What if, rather than living in the question of what's wrong, we ask what's right? What happens if we look for what's right in any given situation rather than what's wrong? Then, by decree of natural law, we'll be given the answer to our question. It's really very much like the practice of gratitude. You know, if we live in the vibration of gratitude, then we attract more and more things to be grateful for. If we live in the vibration of what's right, then we live in a state of allowing our good, or we could say that we're standing in the divine flow of what's right. And that can certainly be a challenge sometimes, as I said, in our messy human lives. There's a lot of messy human situations that we find ourselves in. What's right when we get a medical diagnosis that we don't want? What's right when we lose our job, or the news in the world just seems so bleak? How the heck do we ask what's right in these situations? Well, because we know how life works and that the question we live in will be answered, even in challenging situations. It's important. We must be dedicated to remembering, to knowing that we're that little twinkling star against the backdrop of the dark sky. And I believe that just like that little twinkling star, which looks much brighter against the night sky, our dark or shadow experiences shine brighter the opportunities or the gifts that they are giving us in these kinds of challenging experiences. It's the contrast. We just have to remember where we want to put our attention on what's right. Have you ever experienced or had an experience that was so incredibly painful at the time? When you look back on it, you wonder, how did I ever make it through that? But you can also see that it was actually a turning point in your life. You know, a time when it was evident that what you were doing was just not working, and that what you needed was not necessarily an easier life, but the availability of a greater power in your life. What you really wanted was the ability to summon some greater power than yourself to help guide and support and direct you. I remember years ago, it was probably about 91, 92. I'd just gone through my second divorce. I wasn't in a good place. My life wasn't working. I found myself as a single mom. I wasn't able to make things meet. I was racking up credit card debt. I was feeling lost and alone. And I had this kind of epiphany. I had some friends that were constantly touting the power of meditation. And one day, in desperation, I finally sat down and just asked for help. And it was a couple of days later that a friend of mine who I knew from an AA meeting asked me if I'd like to go to church. Well, I scoffed. I wanted change, but I didn't know if I wanted to go that far. But she did finally talk me into going, and I walked through the doors of what was then called the Santa Rosa Church of Religious Science, which is now Centers for Spiritual Living. And I walked through the doors for the first time. And at the end of that service, I knew my request had been answered. I knew I was home. I knew I had found the availability of that greater power that I was looking for. And I just intuitively knew that I'd found a way forward, a way to summon the gifts within me and to rise to the challenges that I was experiencing. But here's the thing. I'm not sure that I ever would have agreed to go to church with my friend or to make that change or to sit down and finally ask for help if I hadn't have been so desperate and hadn't have felt like I had nowhere else to turn. I was looking for a power greater than myself that could guide and uplift me, and I found it. And I'm here, but only because of my desperate situation. And that desperation was the power that I found, that I connected with, was highlighted against the desperation backdrop. You know, that's how I turned my life around, by seeing that contrast. And how many times has your life led you through some particular challenge straight through to an expansion in consciousness, to an experience of spiritual growth? I guess that it would be more than once, because you're probably much like me, where I've had many moments where I have been guided against the harshness of life into some greater yet to be. So what if, when we feel challenged by some situation, event, or circumstance, we ask an affirming question rather than a disempowering one? Rather than ask what's wrong, ask what good wants to emerge here? You know, what can I bring here? How can I provide the perfect environment for the good that wants to emerge in this situation, in this event, in this relationship, whatever it is? And if we just sit down and ask to be guided and directed so that we can make a space for what's right to flood in, what if we let go of anything we think we know and we become completely open and available to the wisdom and the love and the perfection of God that wants to flow into our lives? What would that look like for us? If we let go of any idea that anything is ever wrong, or that we have to fix anything. We really can't fix anything. We can only create something new. And I'm reminded, I used this line in today's meditation, but I'm reminded of that image of the tug of war. I got this from Michael Singer. You know, he said something about, what if you're on one side of you're having a tug of war and you're on one side, and on the other side is an entire NFL football team, and you prepared yourself for this huge tug of war that you're about to get into, and you know, you've worked on your footing, you got it all figured out, you've learned how you can move and pull from some particular angle to use all your strength. You know, we're gonna fix what's wrong here. We've studied all the techniques we need to win. And as you're struggling to win, you suddenly realize that you don't have to win by an opposing force, that you can win simply by letting go of the rope. We can just simply relax our hands and let go. And when we do that, the NFL team on the other side has now fallen on their behinds. You know, and think of all the energy that we freed up, not fighting with this opposing force, all the energy that we're struggling against what we think is wrong. We can create something new. We can focus on what's right and what wants to flood in when we let it. We can use this practice of asking affirmative questions to create an atmosphere for the expectancy of good. You know, when we ask the question, what is right here? We set ourselves up to receive the answer. And we can use the power of our imagination too to set the scene. You know, research in neuroscience tells us that when we close our eyes and we imagine a scene, that our body doesn't know the difference between the mental activity and the physical activity. You know, it doesn't know the difference between what's going on outside and what's going on inside. And if we envision the good we'd like to see in our lives over and over again, then we're priming our brain and our body into a future of good, the future that we want to experience. And not through pain and suffering, but through inspiration and through joy. I like that so much better. It certainly will be highlighted against the dark night sky. So we can start right now to teach ourselves to be, through affirmative inquiry, how to create an image of good in our hearts and in our minds and in our being. We don't have to wait for our future to appear before we experience it within us. We experience it within us, and then we see it in the world. We don't have to wait for something out there to change before we change. When we change, out there changes. When we feel gratitude and when we feel wholeness and peace and contentment on the inside in a repetitive way, we can't help but create it on the outside. We create these positive habits that become a way of being. And then we're always called to ask that question, what is right here? What is right? And how can I help nurture an environment where what's right just floods in? So I invite you to do that through your week. Always ask, what's right here? And don't live in what's wrong, because it'll be highlighted by the what's right. And we'll see it all. And like I said before, it's that perspective. It's both and. So let's pray. Let's take a nice deep centering breath in. All there is God. It's all good. It's all God all the time. I am turning to that station, to that radio dial of all good, all God, all the time. And I speak my word for and about each and every person that is on this call and every person that is not. I speak my word for the beloved mother that we walk on and all of her inhabitants. I speak my word, and in this word, there is a shift that opens us up to the what's right, what's good, what is yet to be, what wants to come flooding through all of us as vehicles for good, to stand in the flow of the divine good, to twinkle as the little amazing stars that we are. So I just give great gratitude for this and for this community and for this time together and for this opportunity to join together in consciousness, and a consciousness of good and a consciousness of love and gratitude. So I sit in that knowing all is well, and we signify our agreement by saying together, and so it is. And so it is. Oh my goodness. Well, that was fun. I'm going to change my view back to gallery so I can see all the wonderful faces. Woo-hoo. Well, that was lovely. And I'm trying to remember, I think, is it Relaine? Are you doing the?
Yeah.
I got it. All right. Well, I will give it to you. Oh, bye, Abigail. I'll see you later at the picnic. We're having a Point Ballet Interfaith Team picnic today.
All right, so let's just think about giving right now. To One Heart, One Mind. Wonderful talk and music, and just amazing. It's so inspirational. It's a great time to give. And we can do that so easily through Venmo, and you just send that to One Heart, One Mind, or you can send a check to the to Jim Massapus.
Okay, I'm changing it over to here.
And then here's our prayer. Sacred giving. Everything flows from the nature of God's good, and we receive this flow. We give from this flow. We give in gratitude and love, and we have faith in the infinite giving nature of Spirit. And so it is. And in the words of the Levins, let's be big. Big with our giving, and big with our life, and big with our receiving.
Oh, thank you. We'll come back to you for our benediction in just a minute, Relaine. Thank you. Yvonne.
Yes. Announcements. Da-da-da-da. Monday evening prayer group is from 6 to 6:20, and we would love to have you join us on Zoom as we silently pray for one heart, one mind center. And on Tuesday night from 6 to 7, the Learning Circle will be discussing chapter 3 of Life Loves You, written by Louise Hay and Robert Holden. It's a really great book, I think, easy to read and easy to understand and fun. The chapter explores following your joy and using an affirmation board. And Reverend Michelle has made it available on the reading, available online if you need it. You don't have to have read it though, if you want to come without reading it, because we have pretty perky conversations about it. You wouldn't feel out of place at all. I have to remind you not to forget about unexpected income. You won't have any if you don't expect it. And when you get it, then you have to send it on, part of it on to One Heart, One Mind. And then my last thing is just letting you know that you can visit Reverend Michelle's Facebook page, Spiritual Recovery, A Journey of Positive Change. And it has a video and posts for those that are on a journey of recovery. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Yvonne.
You're welcome.
Lovely, I love it. All right, so let's go back to Elaine and do the benediction, and then we'll have Julie and Ira sing for us again.
All right, so let's just close our eyes and just feel the gratitude, feel the goodness, just amazing gratitude of the energies that are here this morning with all of us contributing, and the wonderful music and Lisa's beautiful prayer and words, which is part of the Levin's opening song, opening up. And I just know that the talk is continuing to resonate with us throughout the day, to look at what's right and to feel what's right and to really embrace what's right in our life and make it larger and bigger and more about knowing the truth, that there's more right about our life than not. And that we can work on exploring, even making our life even feel more right. And I just know that there's such gratitude that there's a shift in consciousness within us to know these truths and to really understand them and feel them at the very core of our beings. And so I release this prayer into divine law, knowing that it's already so. Everything is already right. So it is.
Thank you. Yeah, everything's already good. All right, Ira and Julia.
Woohoo!
That was lovely.
Thank you. That was just a lovely talk. And just thinking about, just making that small shift is such a great thing.
It's a big deal.
Catching yourself in the middle. Oh, yeah, no, what's right? Here we go. So this is a muted sing-along.
At the top of your lungs, join us.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
My house, yeah,
I'm gonna let it shine. Even in my house,
When no one's looking,
I'm gonna let it shine. Even in my house, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
well, when I see my neighbor coming, I'm gonna let it shine. And everywhere I go,
And everywhere I go,
see my neighbor coming, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. No, I'm gonna shake hands all around the world, down by the riverside, down by the riverside, down by the riverside. I'm gonna shake hands all around the world, down by the riverside. Not gonna study more anymore.
This little light of mine.
Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are.
Which goes to show you that you can take any nursery rhyme, any poem, any story, and turn it into a metaphor for
There you
sex
go.
of
There
minds.
you go.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Even Little Boy Blue.
that's right.
I was like, twinkle, twinkle, little star. Should I use that or choose it? And I thought, yeah.
It can happen.
Absolutely.
That
Good one.
was a good one. Thank you so much for that. Perfect song to end on. This little light of mine, twinkling in the sky.
That's right.
Would anybody like to say hello? I see Gisela popped up. I know I talked to her yesterday for quite a while, and she had Tom has a medical appointment today that she's taking him to. I think she said at 11:30 or noon or something. So she said she was going to pop off early. But it's good to know that that all is well there, and that we're continuing our prayer support for Tom and for Gisela. You know, the caretakers, well, we all know, especially Renata knows that being being a caretaker to little guys or older guys is sometimes you need a little respite. So she could use a little respite. Anyway, anybody want to say anything? I'll be quiet now. Lisa?
You don't have to. We love everything that's coming out, so it's all good.
Good, I'm glad to hear it. Lisa, it looks like you're trying to talk, but you're still muted. Let me see if I can help you.
No, you're still, whoops, I hit the
There you
wrong.
go.
Did you know you're still recording?
Oh, thank you so much.
You're
No, I
welcome.
did not know I was, but you know what? I can edit that out. But thank you for telling me.
Yes.
Da-da-da-da.
Whoops.